Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us here on Inside Winston Cup Racing. I'm at the Hendrick Motorsports Complex near Harrisburg, North Carolina, and this is headquarters for the number 5 Chevrolet, the Kellogg Cornflakes Chevrolet, which is driven by Terry Labonte in the NASCAR Winston Cup Series. We have lots for you in this half hour of Inside Winston Cup Racing, and here's what's coming up.
Coming up, we'll review the long day at Dover. Several challengers were eliminated early in a wild multi-car crash on lap 2. But Kyle Petty dodged the wreck and roared on to the win.
Stevie Reeves is searching for success in his second season in the Busch Series. We'll meet this former open-wheel champ who hopes to bring his winning tradition to stock car racing.
And we'll talk with some of the most powerful men in the sport, the Jackman. Each week, he's one guy that tries to lift his team to victory.
Today's show is brought to you by Texaco Haviland Formula 3 Motor Oil. Add more life to your car. Cold-filtered Miller Genuine Draft, making the world a very cool place. And by Goodyear, #1 in racing, #1 in tires.
The NASCAR Winston Cup race last weekend was at the all-new concrete on the Dover Downs International Speedway. There was a lot of apprehension going into that race. Would the tires stand up? And certainly Goodyear found out on Saturday in the Busch race that the tires they brought there for the 500 on Sunday would not do the job. So they sent out and got more tires and brought them in, and they did do a good job. Let's take a look back at Kyle Petty's first win in a couple of years.
This segment of IWCR is brought to you by Texaco Haviland Formula 3. Add more life to your car. The field took the green flag, anticipating 500 long miles on the new surface at Dover. Ward Burton's Hardy Chevrolet had been strong all weekend after testing at the track, preparing for this race. Burton started second and quickly took the lead on the opening lap, chased by pole sitter Jeff Gordon. John Andretti also qualified well and started fourth. But in the fourth turn on the second lap, Andretti's Little Caesars Ford slid out from underneath him, was tagged by Ricky Craven, igniting a wild smoke-filled scene, hiding cars careening across the track. When the smoke cleared, almost 20 cars were involved, most of them heavily damaged. No one was seriously injured, although several drivers required medical attention before leaving the track, including Dale Jarrett, who took a hard head-first ride into the wall. Some cars returned to the race, but were never a factor. Under green, Burton led through the first 44 laps. Jeff Bodine had high hopes, but spun on lap 26. And after a debris caution on lap 48, Gordon led the racers back into the race, and the event stayed green for nearly 300 laps. Kyle Petty's Coors Light Pontiac profited from the early caution and rumbled from deep in the field and into the lead, chased by Gordon, Sterling Marlin, Jimmy Spencer, Bobby Labonte, and Joe Nemechek. Through green flag pit stops and past halfway, Petty continued to dominate, similar to his winning runs at Rockingham. Then on lap 338, Dave Marcus took a vicious ride exiting turn 2, smacking the wall, then sliding back through traffic. This fourth caution bunched the field. The leaders got fuel and fresh rubber. Petty won the race off pit road, but just after the green flag flew, Dale Earnhardt charged back onto the lead lap, pulling Gordon along and into the lead. Moments later, Gordon dumped Earnhardt from the lead lap. Meanwhile, Petty was patient, and after Jimmy Spencer crashed, briefly bringing out the next caution, Petty pedaled his Pontiac by Gordon's Chevy with Ted Musgrave and Bobby Labonte in tow. The tire police were kept busy, checking on teams trying to beg, borrow, or buy an extra set. Petty began the final round of green flag pit stops with 70 laps left. Then Ted Musgrave, low on fuel, coasted in for tires. Bobby Labonte got 4 stickers and gas. Then Gordon with a 2-tire stop. And finally, Hutch Strickland surrendered the lead and pitted. That returned Petty to the point, with Labonte, last week's winner, surging into second, moving Musgrave to third. In the closing laps, Petty tried to crawl away, but Labonte brought Musgrave into a 3-way charge to the checkers. Kyle led more than 270 laps, but on the last one, Labonte tried to scoot around the outside while Musgrave waited for a mistake. Neither plan worked, because Petty was perfect to the close and captured his first win in almost 2 years.
Who would ever expect Dover, especially qualifying 37th the way I run? You know, we had a decent car, you know, and we got that first lap wreck helped us a little bit because there were some good cars in there. Can't catch my breath, man. Still a little dizzy, but just one of them days where everything went your way, you know. I mean, had to borrow tires from people, and NASCAR looked after all that, and Goodyear did a good job bringing another set of tires in 24 hours. That's an incredible job. I think that shows what Goodyear can do. You know, I mean, I think that shows why there were so many people loyal to Goodyear last year. But, you know, I can't say enough about Coors Light and Barry and Felix and the Cringe. Keith Simmons, who built our motors, said that this was his first, maybe his first Winston Cup win. I don't know. It's my first one in a long time. Feels like my first one anyhow.
Didn't qualify good up here, but we didn't give up. I made some changes on the car this morning, guessed at them. Kyle doesn't care what I do. He supports me. I support him, and it couldn't have come at a better time. It's, you know, I said I got to win the race this year for my children if they got to put me in jail for it. And we did it, and that only makes the next one come easier. It's a good run for Pontiac. I told him I thought we could win a race with this year's car, and let's take that and put it into next year and even be better. And I know now he's a believer in that.
Made a gallant effort on that last lap.
Well, I guess that's what waited to the end. You know, I didn't want to do it too early, but yeah, I knew it was going to be hard to pass him on the bottom, so I went to the outside, and it was too slippery up there.
You had to have thoughts of winning 2 in a row there.
Yeah, I tell you, it was hard to think about winning 1. Now, when you think about winning 2, it was kind of scary because it's like, I ain't supposed to be out here doing this, I guess. But I tell you, that it was pretty neat. You know, the car worked good enough all day. You know, we had good practice speeds and, you know, good qualifying, which, you know, got us out of trouble that they had early and, you know, got us to the point where we needed to be at the end of the race. And, you know, just like to thank everybody Interstate and all the guys in the crew did an awesome job on this race car. Good thing is we're taking it to Pocono next weekend.
Is it disappointing not to get your first one when you had maybe the best car on the racetrack at the last 100 laps for sure?
No, nothing's disappointing as far as, you know, my team's been really coming along strong, and, you know, Jack and I and Mark and everybody on this team over here, you know, involved with both teams have really been doing good. And, you know, I got no, like you say, no regrets about anything. You know, the things turn up that unforeseen. I mean, I could have been involved in that first lap accident and never had a chance to run that fuel mileage out. So you got to take the days when you can and capitalize on what you got.
I think NASCAR and Goodyear did a good job of managing what could have been a tough situation with the tires at Dover. Of course, this weekend, the Winston Cup drivers and teams are at Pocono, Pennsylvania. You be sure to join us here tomorrow morning at 11 o'clock, and we'll preview that race. And then, of course, tomorrow evening on our 7 o'clock show, we'll have highlights of the race. We'll be right back with more on this edition of Inside Winston Cup Racing, including a story on the Jack men in racing and the mailbox. So don't go away. There are a lot of key people that make up a NASCAR Winston Cup team, and in particular, those that go over the wall when a car comes in for a pit stop. Now, in my opinion, the Jack man is the quarterback of that crew because his performance has a great deal to do on how fast a pit stop they make. Randy Pemberton has this story on the Jack men in racing.
You're like the point guard of the basketball team or the quarterback of the football team. You're in control of that pit stop when it happens, and you've got to be aware of everything that's happening. Again, if you let the car go early, you're going to cause trouble, or if you're late getting to the car, you're going to throw off the synchronicity of everyone else. So, again, you're in control, and you've got to be there for your guys.
The job of the Jackman has evolved over the years. Today, they're bigger, stronger, and certainly faster than they were 30, 20, even 10 years ago.
But back then, it was whoever was able to carry that big old jack. So as long as you were strong enough to carry it, that was the deal. They didn't think too much about speed going around the car and so forth. Now it's progressed to where speed is also very important.
So what goes through the mind of today's Jackmen as they race onto pit road and try to raise their race cars and hopefully lower it quicker than their competition?
The main thing is I cannot leave early. I have to wait until the guys get the lug nuts tight And the main thing is, if it takes a couple more seconds to get everything tight, we need to take those couple extra seconds to save coming back in, losing a race car, or getting a driver hurt.
Jackmen themselves seem to be susceptible to injury. All-Pro Jackman David Smith of Richard Childress Racing has been out of action for the past couple of weeks with a bad back. And last year, when Smith was out due to other medical reasons, Michael Moore got the call to step in and jack the 3 car. And he admits he learns a little on every stop.
I watch other jackmen when they come in, and you learn a lot just by watching them. You watch his tapes. And like with David, he came up to me, we practiced one day, and he came up to me and told me 2 things I was doing right off the bat. Just, you know, they can see what you're doing, you see what they're doing.
Worst day for you as a jackman, was it Richmond?
Well, that was probably my worst and my best day, because I did lose a piece of my finger, but I got hired by Richard Childress for doing it, so I don't know what you call that. It's one of those most memorable moments, I think, or something.
Over the last several years, the jack itself has been the center of attention when trying to take ticks off the clock. Today, most use what you call a one-pump George Brunhosel jack, the only way to go. I know the race teams pick up the cost of this, but generally speaking, what does something like this run?
$1,300 a jack.
But I guess that's a small price to pay.
Yeah, if you're going to do good, you might as well have the best equipment.
But no matter how good your jack is, the team is only as fast as the man that slings it.
Sunday at Charlotte, we were real good in the pits, and it feels real good to beat somebody out of the pits like Earnhardt. Dale Jarrett's team is real strong in the pits. Jeff Gordon's has always been there. So it does, it really feels good. We don't get the recognition that we deserve, but, that's okay. We'll get it in due time.
And the men that jack the cars don't just jack the cars. Some drive the trucks, most work at the shops, and some just come on race days, like Walter Smith. You, away from this racetrack, don't work with a race team, but have your own gym. Were you one of the first guys to be so-called pumped up and be able to do this?
I think that, yeah, my brother and myself, we were definitely one of the first 2 to really push it. Mark Martin, of course, he got into it very, very early from a driver's standpoint. Ricky Rudd also. And, it's just progressed from there. Now a lot of the crews are doing it. A lot of the teams have gyms in their shop, and they encourage their crew members to be physically fit.
The Jackman, bigger, stronger, and faster than ever before. What will they be like in another 10 years?
Well, this little jewel, a high-tech jack, has to do its job, too. It's amazing at the technology in the sport in every phase of it. Still to come on this edition of Inside Winston Cup Racing, the mailbox, and we'll also talk to Stevie Reeves, the Busch driver. We'll be right back. The IWCR voicemail box is brought to you by Miller Genuine Draft.
Do all the drivers run one engine for qualifying and another one for the race, and what is the difference between the 2?
Hi, I'm Danny Lawrence, one of the engine builders for the Goodwrench No. 3 Monte Carlo. Most of the drivers do use a qualifying engine and a race engine, and the difference would be a qualifying engine's built with a little bit lighter components, and it's something you can run real hard for just a couple of laps. The race engines are more durable, and they're made for running long distances. That's a good question. Thanks for calling in, Christine.
Questions for the voicemail box are recorded on the finishing positions hotline at 1-900-73-RACES. You can also get up-to-the-minute qualifying results, race results, and point standings. 89 cents a minute in the U.S., 99 cents in Canada. Average call 2 minutes for mailbox or 3 minutes for results. Call 1-900-73-RACES. If we use your question, you'll receive a Miller Genuine Draft Race Team Jacket.
There's a lot of construction going on here at the Hendrick Motorsports Complex. They're building a complete new shop for the 24 and 25 teams, and they're doing a complete renovation job here for the Kellogg Cornflakes car number 5. Still to come, we'll talk with Stevie Reeves. You stay with us.
The next stop for the Winston Cup Series is the Swift Michigan International Speedway. Can Rusty Wallace find his way back to victory lane? Don't miss the pre-race report for the Miller Genuine Draft 400 next Sunday morning.
And we'll talk with Winston Cup rookie Robert Presley. After a successful career in the Busch Series, Robert is working with his brother and trying to fill the seat of Harry Gant in the Skoll Chevrolet.
Then we'll introduce you to the patriarch of the Waltrip family. Once you meet 72-year-old Leroy Waltrip, you'll understand where Daryl and Michael get their desire and their sense of humor. It's a special Father's Day story next Sunday.
That looks good, yeah.
Oh, yeah, Macho Man Randy Savage, I just want to take a little time out to tell the people at Inside Winston Cup Racing, yeah, happy 10th anniversary, yeah. Congratulations to you guys. Tell me when the party is. I want to be there, yeah.
Stevie Reeves is not new to racing. He has a lot of experience. He replaced Harry Gant in the Ed Whitaker Chevrolets, which are sponsored by Clever Girl. Now, most of Stevie's experience, though, has been in open wheel cars, and sometimes it's tough to transfer that experience to the stock cars. Bill Weber talked to Stevie recently about that.
I started out racing quarter midgets, and then when I was 17, I started racing sprint cars, and then my career kind of took a turn. I got a break and started racing midgets, and so that led me on to going for the national title. I finished second in 91. We didn't run 7 races. And then in 92 and 93, I changed to the Steve Lewis racing team with the Beast House car, and we won the championship both times there. So I started looking which way my career wanted to go, and basically at the time, stock cars was the way to go. I grew up around Indy cars, and all growing up, that's all I wanted to do. Actually, I worked a job building Indy car parts, and so when it come time to look for my career, stock cars is what I wanted to do, and we put a program together, and fortunately, of all people, Tony George was who helped bring me down here. And, you know, when I was looking for sponsors, he was probably the last person you would ever think of going stock car racing, but it all kind of fell into place. You know, stock cars with the radial tires, you know, that's another thing that come into play. I ran all bias-ply tires. Once the car does get away from you, they're real hard to save, and you know, that's part of the learning curve. I mean, everybody goes through it when they come from, you know, regular stock cars up to the Busch Grand National or anything. You have that learning curve. I think mine's a little bit more right now than what other people go through, but, you know, as long as everybody's patient and, you know, gives me time to learn these cars, you know, I think we're going to have a good future here. Well, the frustration meter, it bounces back and forth about every week, but it did that in open wheel cars too. You know, in open wheel cars, you run 5th there. I consider that a bad night. I mean, you know, because we were in contention to win every week we went to the racetrack, and we come here and we'd like to think we are, but you know, realistically, I'm still learning, and that's part of it. You know, going into the season this year, Ed Whitaker knew that. I'd had 1 season under my belt, and this year right now we're only doing a limited schedule. So now we're still looking for some extra money so we can fill in those gaps, so I can get more seat time and keep racing. Right now we're down to 19 races, and you know, going from 70 races a year down to 19 races, it kind of feels like I'm on the longest vacation of my life, and that's not what I like. I like being behind the wheel. I like being at the racetrack, whether it's during the week trying to test or out on the track racing. I mean, just being behind the wheel is what makes me happy. I enjoy racing as a sport. You know, I'm not in it for the money, and you know, all that they say comes later, and we haven't found that yet, but you know, I like being in the car. That's what I grew up around. Like I said, since I was 7 years old, racing's all I know. And that's where I want my career to be, and I've worked all my life. This is 21 years I've been doing it now, and you know, I'd hate to give up at this point, you know, but we're giving it the best shot we can. They went and they refinanced their house to buy me a sprint car so I could go sprint car racing, and when we won the national championship in 93, the ring that, you know, was given to me for the national championship, I had size for my grandfather, and I gave it to him. You know, it was probably the hardest night of my life. I got choked up there, and it ended up, I was looking out in the crowd, and everybody was crying, and I was crying, and that's not the way it meant to me. It meant to be a happy occasion, but it ended up turning out, people really realized how much it meant to me for what everybody does for me. Just, you know, like I said, Tony George, without his help right now, I wouldn't be NASCAR racing. If you set a goal for yourself and you get to that goal, then it's too short. So, you know, I'm basically trying to learn stock car racing, and you know, as soon as that happens, then we'll concentrate on the victories and the championships and moving up. Right now, you know, I'm pretty happy with the way my career is going. It's not going as quick in stock cars as we'd like it to, but you know, that's part of racing. I mean, you're patient. You're going to have the bad times. We're just having all ours right at once, I think. But you know, if we get some associates and get some seat time, I think that's going to be the best thing that can happen to myself and the team. I think that's going to make us a real contender for the full season next year.
Their plans at the beginning of the season were to run 19 of the 26 NASCAR Busch races, and a young guy like Stevie Reeves needs all the seat time he can get to get that experience. Well, our time's up for today. Hope you enjoyed the show. Our thanks to Gary Dehart and all the folks for allowing us to come in here during their renovation period. We're off to Michigan for the Miller Genuine Draft 400 next weekend. You join us again here on TNN for more on Inside Winston Cup Racing.
Today's show has been brought to you by Texaco Clean System 3 Gasolines. Add more life to your car. Cold filtered Miller Genuine Draft, making the world a very cool place. And by Goodyear, #1 in racing, #1 in tires. Hey fans, now's the time to grab a piece of all the exciting action for yourself. And the fastest way to victory lane is the 1995 Team Simpson catalog. It'll help make you a winner. Call 1-800-71-RACIN and join Team Simpson today. The official conversion van of Inside Winston Cup Racing is Gladiator by Glavelle, America's #1 luxury van. Glavelle, the way we put it together, sets us apart.